basis, but not in this instance.
Well, there's that too.
Yes. So this got me considering the idea of heroism. And I was like, what exactly is a hero? And I have come to realize that we have labeled people who are in the moment conscious and choose to take action. That is so strange and unique of an experience that we have labeled it hero. Someone standing in their space, in their moment in time, and being their contribution such that it causes something different. Mm-hmm. And we have coined a word, hero, because it's so unique and so special that these people are like unto super beings because of their willingness to step up and take action in that moment. And I realized reading these stories how exciting it is to read these stories and how ridiculous it is to read these stories. Because last week's show, you issued a challenge.
Right.
I don't know if anyone was listening. I listened. And this challenge was to dance in the space that you're in. To be the inspiration in your moment. And then all of a sudden I read these stories and I realize, wait a second. That is truly magnificent if someone were to just step up and be their contribution in that moment and inspire the people around them. Now, it doesn't always have to look like jumping on a gun-wielding maniac, nor does it have to look like being one of 20,000 people dancing to Black Eyed Peas on an Oprah premiere, right?
Right.
So how is it, and riddle me this, Melissa, since you are connected to
Quite
the
a
people.
riddler.
Yes, connected to the people. Mm-hmm. Why is it that people are willing to witness heroism, which, for lack of a better term, is simply people being their contribution in that moment? Why are the majority of people willing to be witnesses to that instead of being that? Like, what causes someone to witness a 15-year-old girl being dragged by the neck into a forest and simply witness it?
I think people just get too afraid for their own safety to climb outside that box type of thing. You know, they're too afraid of what might happen to them if they risk.
Okay. I totally get that. I get that based on results, the vast majority of us are too inward focused on our own experience to be outward focused in contribution. I was sitting and talking to someone recently on the phone, and they were sharing with me how they were using the power of the law of attraction, the powers of manifestation, to create miracles in their life. And how I said, well, how's that going? He says, I've called these miracles, and now I'm just looking for the miracles. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, well, while you're looking for the miracles, you're not being the miracle. Mm-hmm. Because literally, he was looking for the miracles to show up in his life. Like literally the watched pot. Waiting for the watched pot to boil. Not realizing that, you know what? The pot's going to boil whether you watch it or not, so how about you go do something useful in the meantime? And I was amazed at how this person was willing to sit back and wait for the miracle to come. And I thought about these heroes, these quote-unquote heroes, who in their moment chose to be more than a witness of the moment and to actively participate in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then I started expanding this out of the extraordinary of gun-wielding bank robbers and would-be rapists into the everyday. And I looked at my life. And one thing that you know about me, and we all kind of laugh about it, is every once in a while, I will be walking down the street, and I will see a piece of litter. Mm-hmm. And I will have to pick it up. I cannot not pick it up. In fact, I've told you before, I have to pick that up because the only reason I noticed it was to be the one who had to pick it up.
Right.
That if I was not meant to pick up that piece of garbage, I would not have noticed that it was there. And I'm very open to the possibility that much garbage has gone past me completely unnoticed. And that could be likely because I'm unconscious, but I get that in the moment that I'm conscious of a piece of garbage, I am in that moment accountable to pick it up off the ground. Otherwise, why would I be aware of it? Mm-hmm. And in that, I realized here are these 3 stories of people who, in an extraordinary circumstances, saw something that got to shift and took action. They were, in that moment, their contribution. But I could just as easily be reading this story about, they didn't release the name of that guy. This guy, Patrick Klatt, 51, of Staten Island, who went chasing after a man with a bat. That could have been any number of people. Mm-hmm. And what about the people who maybe knew this guy, maybe knew him to be violent or have violent tendencies, who could have stopped him there?
Right.
Could have stopped him at his house. Mm-hmm. Could have stopped him in high school. Could have stopped him when he was a child, punching cats in sacks, I assume. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to be held liable for slander or something like that. He might have punched cats in a sack.
What the hell did you even come up with that?
What? I mean, what other possible behavior could tell that he would later grab a 15-year-old by the neck and drag her into the woods? There must be tells, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I look at the garbage thing, the picking up the little garbage. It seems little, insignificant, and surely the world wouldn't come to an end if I didn't pick up the trash. That would be the common thought, right? And yet, what if it did? What if me choosing not to pick up that piece of trash put into effect a chain of events that ultimately ended in the end of this planet?
It's a possibility.
That'd be so awesome. And yet I'd feel terrible. Here I am sitting in heaven. They're running back the tape. Where did all this start? How did the earth come to an end so abruptly and inexplicably? They roll it back to that Coke can on West 95th. Oh, there's Jason Beckett walking by. Oh,
bastard.
You know what? Let's do something to him. No Glee. You are not allowed to watch Glee.
Ever.
For the rest of eternity. That would be terrible.
Yeah, okay.
And yet, how often do we pass the garbage, so to speak, the little things, thinking, oh, it's so little, it doesn't matter.
This kind of reminds me of the story about, someone walking on the beach and seeing all the starfish. You know that story?
The countless starfish.
Yes. And...
Go, share.
And, someone's picking one up and then throwing it back in the ocean and keep walking, then picking one up and throwing it back in the ocean. Then someone walks up and says, why are you doing that? There's so many here on the beach. You're never going to get them all. And what does it matter? And then she says, it matters to this one, as she throws it back. If we're open to just being that big of a change, even if it is that small, our ripple is so huge being for that one person. I mean, look at that young 15-year-old girl or that 5-year-old child that woman saved from the dog. The huge ripple had something happen to that one person that would have had on that family, that the friends, the schoolmates, the neighbors.
It's so true. And as I look at, I was watching Stephen Colbert the other day.
Okay.
And he had on, I believe it was one of the mayors of one of the cities in New Jersey. And they were talking about getting rid of, lowering crime rates and things like that. And I was looking at, that's great. I mean, here's this guy being celebrated for as a mayor causing a difference in the crime